Well, you guys, today I was sad. Really sad. I think I was depressed. Or was I sad? Was I sad? What is the difference? Today, hopefully, I can shed a light on that. My name is Isaac, for those of you who don't know me. Enoch is my older brother, and Ben and Jake are my younger brothers. And together we are the What About Therapy podcast / YouTube channel now. I don't really know what we're doing, honestly. But this week we are talking about depression. And I'm going to talk about the difference between depression and sadness. Maybe I'll even talk about sad. So jumping into depression. What is depression? Depression, simply put, is a long-term sadness, a feeling of guilt, worthlessness, or hopelessness, a feeling of irritability or frustration, difficulty sleeping or concentrating, changes in appetite or weight, a lack of energy, a loss of interest in hobbies. There's a lot of things. Depression can come in all forms and shapes and sizes. Now, sadness, let's talk about sadness for a sec. Sadness is a normal feeling that everyone can feel. It can come up when we are grieving a loved one, when we have the loss of a job or income, divorce, financial trouble, issues at home, failing at school, not getting a job, experiencing other disappointing events. Now, sadness can happen every single day, but that doesn't always mean that it's depression. Now, let's briefly talk about SAD. What is SAD? SAD is seasonal affective disorder. Now, seasonal affective disorder is something that we all can feel around the time of year of changing seasons. So right now is springtime in Utah. And for those of you who know springtime in Utah, it's terrible. Okay. Today it snowed, and then it was also 75 degrees and hot. And then tomorrow it'll probably snow again, and then it'll probably be hot again. Changing in seasons can change our emotions. So seasonal affective disorder means that during these times, some people can be more prone to feelings of sadness or of depression. And as Enoch said in our video here, SAD is actually under the criteria for depression in the DSM-5. And that's all we're going to dig into SAD. I just wanted to put that in there so that if anyone says SAD, S-A-D, seasonal affective disorder, you'll know what that means. Now let's compare sadness and depression a little bit more and see if we can get an applicable analogy. Sadness could be referred to as a storm, right? Storms happen, maybe daily, right? But that doesn't mean it's going to last forever. Some storms, well, depending, maybe you live in Oregon, no, but storms usually pass. So sadness would be like a storm, and depression would be like a hurricane. Something that's way more intense, probably lasts a little bit longer, right? At the beginning, I talked about depression being long-term sadness, something that sticks around for a while. And people that are clinically depressed will feel sad for long periods of time, and sometimes the reason is not always evident. So how can we support somebody who is depressed? I just pointed at myself. But how can we support somebody who is depressed? We can't always do something for someone who's depressed, and we have to remember that. When somebody is going through a really hard time, when you find out that somebody has clinical depression or they've been diagnosed with depression, there's not always something you can do, but there are some things. So some of the best things I've learned in my life to support people in my life who are depressed and to ask for support as somebody diagnosed with depression is, one, asking for space. Sometimes we need space, right? Sometimes you need space to process an emotion. I think oftentimes we assume that when somebody's depressed, they need us right there with them all the time, right? That's not always true. Some people who are depressed do need space. Now, there's definitely a limit. If I'm having a really hard day, I have learned to tell my wife that I'm having a really hard day, or ask for support from friends or family and try to get out and be around people, because that's how I deal with it. But some days I just need space. I just need to step away. I just need to take a nap. Naps are amazing. Some days I just need to go for a drive or go for a walk or just sit alone with my thoughts. And that can change daily. Now, for a lot of people, distraction can be a great thing. Distraction can help people that are depressed by giving them something else to focus on. Sometimes people that are depressed get so caught up in the feelings, and it's kind of like a never-ending spiral. It can be really difficult to get out of the spiral, but sometimes distraction can be good. For me, it's Guitar Hero, or it's playing video games with my brothers. I love video games. I used to play them way too much as a teenager, but I love video games now. And I'm a Guitar Hero expert. I'm going to be real, okay? Don't come at me with Guitar Hero, all right? I'll destroy you. But those are just 2-3 different ways I've dealt with depression, and I've helped other people deal with depression. Mainly distracting, participating with them in activities, or just giving space when needed. Now, sadness, what can we do for sadness? So if sadness is a feeling that we feel every day, then it's going to be something we have to deal with every day. One of the most important things to remember about sadness is it's normal. Okay, when somebody passes away or when you're going through a really hard time, it's okay to feel sad. Let's validate that feeling for a sec. So if you're a friend of someone who is sad, or you yourself are feeling sad, take some space for yourself to feel that. It's important to feel sad because it's a feeling. It's a normal human feeling. If we try to prevent ourselves from feeling sad all the time and just kind of hold that in, we're bound to break. Right? You can't just white knuckle through life, especially with depression and with sadness. They can build up to long-term depression. Sadness is something that is normal and should be let out. Now, what are some clinical treatment approaches for sadness, depression, and SAD? Well, we already talked about SAD being under the depression umbrella. So anything that treats depression can treat SAD. Yes and no. There are some things that depression treatments can help with for SAD. And one of those things being therapy. Another thing being medication. Something really interesting though with SAD is light therapy. Our brain reacts to light and stimulus, right? Obvious. And sometimes that can change our feelings and our emotions. And that's why during seasonal affective disorder, it can be so intense for some people. The sun isn't there all the time. Sometimes it's covered up and terrible, and then it is there, then it's gone. So I've heard great things about light therapy. So if you are struggling with SAD, seasonal affective disorder, I'd say to look into that. Try it out. Let me know in the comments below if you've ever tried that. Now going back to depression, some other treatments for depression. Lifestyle changes, that can be huge. A support group can be really big. Bringing in loved ones can be one of the most beneficial things you can do with depression. Letting people know that you're struggling. Well, obviously you have me and this channel, but you also have other resources like 988, which I love that they just changed that, the suicide hotline. Now that doesn't always mean you need to use it when you're just thinking of taking your life when you've gotten that far, but sometimes you just need somebody to talk to. And so that's a great resource. If you don't have anybody in your life, great resource. Pets can help. I just got a puppy. I'll throw a picture on screen. Cutest puppy ever. His name is Bernie, and he has helped me so much on my hard days. Now, what can we do to treat sadness? We kind of already talked about this. Some things we can do to treat sadness, right? Talking to friends and loved ones, spending more time outdoors, spending time doing things that you love, validating the feeling, taking space for the feeling. There are some other things we can do too when we're sad. There are things called DBT skills, all right? DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy skills. I know that a lot of people don't like these skills that have been introduced to them because they use them so often or they have a bad rep, but they're great. DBT skills are awesome. Now, what is the difference between SAD and depression? Are you sad or are you depressed? I think oftentimes depression is starting to become more and more of this social norm. Now, I do think the rates for depression are going up dramatically. Things like social media and just social life in general in the US and across the world are becoming very different than they were 100 years ago. I mean, take the telephone, for example. The iPhone, for example. Now, the iPhone was introduced in 2008. And I think since then, depression has also risen pretty dramatically. Now, this could be because more people are talking about it. Maybe it's becoming more socially acceptable to talk about. Or maybe there is a direct link between social media and depression. Maybe one of my brothers will talk about that. We'll see. Anyways, I just want us to be extra careful and mindful when we say that we are depressed versus when we are sad. Right? Think to yourself, is this a long-term sadness that I'm feeling? Is this something that I've been dealing with for a long time? How is it presenting in your life? Talk with somebody about it. Talk with a therapist. Talk with a friend or your family or loved one. Or is this something you're just feeling that's situational? Am I sad? Is this something that's normal for my situation? Would any sane person be sad in this situation? You lose a loved one. I'd assume you'd be sad, right? You have to go through a grieving process, but that doesn't always mean that you are clinically depressed. So I'm not making this video to say that, oh, if you're depressed, you're just sad. Oh, stop saying you're depressed. I do believe there are a lot of people in this world that are depressed. I just want us to make sure that we know what words we are using and what they mean when we say them. Thank you everybody for joining on this episode. And like I said, go to the previous episode with Enoch right here, talking about the DSM-5 for depression. And we will see you next week with our new topic. What about therapy? What about therapy? I just wanted to give a quick thank you to everybody who has stuck around with the What About Therapy podcast for this long. Now, I know it's been a really bumpy journey, and we're hoping to be able to boot things back up here. We've had almost 200 episodes of different topics about therapy. Hopefully, we'll be able to start honing those in weekly into different subjects in therapy and shed some more light on these super important topics. Thank you for you all who have stuck with us, me and Enoch, and also with Austin back in the day. You all have been such a great support, and we look forward to the future with all of you in this amazing podcast on this great journey.